Testing, testing. One, two, three. Hey, this is Gary Rockman, your real estate rock star, and you are tuned into Connection. Welcome, man. Woo, woo, woo. I've got a lot of stuff on my mind. Lots of stuff on my mind today. It's been, sure, last couple of weeks have been crazy for a lot of people. And for me as well. You know, it's been pretty tough. Been pretty tough. A lot of things. Of course, we know on in the country as far as the unrest. We know we're still in, you know, COVID, COVID country or world. But my issue, or I guess my brain of late, has been on a lot of different things. A lot of different things. I have been engaging with my followers via Facebook and social media, and it's has me. I guess it's. I don't know if it's has me perplexed or if it's something I knew already. I think I've really known this, but um, I've wanted, I guess, to believe something different than what I really know. And I know, and I'm speaking of my own folk right now. I'm speaking of black people and how just disconnected, uninformed we are about our own history, um, and how we are ill equipped and I'm really speaking now of those who are supposedly the talented 10, how we are ill equipped to embark solutions, to bring forth new ideas, to fix many of the things that we are crying out. And it kind of really, I think, in these last few weeks, has really come to a head where I'm seeing clearly, clearer than I ever have before, that many of us, though we put up a facade of knowing, being educated, and having information, um, are very much so uh, ill equipped, very much so uh, just a tale of what we need to really be. And that's really been heartbreaking. That's really been heartbreaking. Um, Many of you know that I'm a Tuskegee alum. I'm a proud Tuskegee alum. Um, I am one who believes that Booker T. Washington was probably one of the greatest men to set foot on American soil. And him among others that I hold dear. And I also feel that right now he is turning over in his grave because of the lack of individual leadership so many of us have shown. I want to read a blog that I was inspired to write, and some maybe got an abbreviated version of this via social media before it went to my editor. I need an editor. I am the worst. I am definitely the worst at finding grammatical errors. My brain moves faster than my thumbs, so I will miss words. I have to always edit posts that I post on Facebook. Um, I'll see them clear as day after I post, but prior to that, I can read it 10 times and not recognize the error. But never, I was inspired to write this blog, and I haven't written a blog, in a few months. I used to do it once a month, like clockwork, and then it was, I would sometimes even do two in a month. Um, but kind of, focused on a lot of things. The creative juices don't flow on the blogs as much. But when they do, I try to jot them down. And I actually felt that what I was sharing on social media was worthy of actually having its own blog and building on it a bit. So I would like to read that before I go into what I really want to discuss today. And it hasn't actually been posted yet, so it's still in my editor still has it, so I'm reading the rough draft. And it's called A Burning House. I like to first state that we are at war and have always been at war with white America. Police officers killing black men, women, it's as old as it and common as the country itself. I believe we win the war. I've studied the rise and fall of all of our civil rights and human rights organizations over the years. I started out early as an activist at the age of 15 or so and was a registered FOI, H. Rap Brown, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, Dr. Henry Clark, and the African Union Ambassador. I mess up her name. She's a beautiful woman. I don't even want to botch your name up. I don't want to botch it up, and I have heard others do so. So I will. But she is the African Union Ambassador. She's a remarkable woman. I'll post a picture of her, she and I, on the and her name so that others can look her up. In my studies and in my involvement, I have learned that our first work is with us. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't raise hell when we are victims of injustice. It means that we must heal our people and create a healthy home to better fight our enemies. How can a family fight the enemy outside its door if it is getting annihilated in each room of its own house? How much stronger would we be if all of our soldiers redirected their aim on our true enemy? The best Black leaders we've ever had, respectively, are Marcus Garvey, Elijah Muhammad, Booker T. Washington, the Black Panther Party, and Farrakhan. Each of these men and the organizations they led primary focus was not on changing their enemy, it was on changing the damage plaguing their people. MLK, Martin Luther King, was the only person that chose trying to change their enemy first and later questioned if he had led his people into a burning house. So, what is the takeaway? Well, yes, Black on Black crime should be our primary focus, both the physical and mental type. Black on Black crime is not just one Black person killing another. It is much more far reaching than just physical death. It also encompasses a mental genocides of each other. A person that fails to buy from each other and collaborate are an unhealthy and very sick people. Black on Black crime has to include working against one's own self-interest. From all of my studies and conversations with great thought leaders, there have been several parallel thoughts in which they all agree. So instead of just discussing the problem, let's discuss how to fix some things. One, atonement equals first, we must forgive ourselves. We must have a deeper understanding of how we got to this point and empathy for each of us in our individual struggles with self. Two, strengthening the family. First, understanding that a true family consists of man and woman. I know that many things are accepted today and thrown upon us as family, and my position is not to judge a soul. I, however, have a responsibility to acknowledge that life itself has an order in which embodies a universal law. This order is a plan is as plain and consistent as the rise and set of the sun. If we are to advance, we must accept that man and woman are the foundation to any true family and is keeping in order of the law of economic transformation, banking, buying, and building for Black causes. No exceptions. No other free people or nation does business with others before themselves. Neglect can only erode from within and is a reflection of one's own self hatred. Banking, buying, and building for Black causes is a positive reflection of a people of a people's core values of self-worth. 4. Education equals institutional education and equally as important fundamental education. Gain knowledge and skill to advance ourselves together. If education doesn't solve the issues in our communities, it is not real education. If we are seeking degrees that lack the skill or knowledge to heal and teach others, we are wasting our time and money. We have allowed education to build an elitism that has no power throughout the world and no solutions to fix its own problems. The sole purpose of any education is to advance oneself, one's people, and ultimately the world. 5. Food equals. We must control our own food and water supply. Examples of not doing so is Flint, Michigan. We aren't taking this seriously. How can we cry about injustice in the streets? Our enemy will cut or alter our food and water supply as a first step of genocides and control. To think that they will shoot down like dogs and not poison us is either our neglect or ignorance. We must grow, cook, and learn to filter our own water. We must grow and cook our own food and learn to filter our own water. 6, health. Physical and mental transformation changing what we put in our mouth and in our minds. I've shared 1,000 times that a healthy body is not just a fit one, it is also a well functioning one. It is free of drugs to maintain itself and can heal itself from within. To do so, it must have real food and not processed fast food. It should be prepared conventionally and without the use of radiation. Its mind must be free of foolishness and meaningless entertainment. And things that we take in our bodies have one to three effects. It is either a positive or negative or neutral. The latter two have no real purpose for advancement. 7. International affairs, mending relationships worldwide with other blacks and brown nations. If not now, when? This is an essential part of our advancement as people. All other races have a connection to a homeland and allies are formed. Policy is not just local, it is mainly foreign. And foreign policy of Black people anywhere affects Black people everywhere. The best example of this would be when the Haitians won their independence from France. It created a domino effect, one known today as the Louisiana Purchase. The French could no longer afford to support the Confederates because they were no longer supported by Haitian slave labor. This lack of financial support from France disabled the Confederates and inevitably fostered their defeat by the Union, which caused the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863. 8. Political empowerment. Only supporting and electing those willing to push our agenda. No exceptions. Black politicians only matter when they put us first. This idea and romance that Black people have about Black politicians has given us a void check. It must end if we want to use politics to push policy. Black elected politicians often fail to understand quid pro quo, yet we tend to give them and unnamed political parties our full support, or even blame when such politicians and political parties are not successful in their bid for office. Yet we are never rewarded for our unyielding support. 9. Military equals all Black people must practice their Second Amendment right to bear arms. We must be able to protect ourselves and our agenda. God's law is self-preservation. It is the first law of man. So how can one practice this law if not taking the responsibility of protecting oneself? Bearing arms is what countries do to maintain peace and move policy. What makes us any different? We must train our entire families of the importance of possessing and safe use of firearms. Let Tulsa, Oklahoma, also known as Black Wall Street, and Rosewood be our examples of how important this is. 10. Justice reform. Overhaul of entire system. If the 9 preceding points are achieved, justice reform is low-hanging fruit. If the 9 preceding points are not achieved, our enemy will never change a thing. Fact. 400 years of injustice, white supremacy, colonialism. If we each practice these things, we can become the revolution we yearn for, and no one person has to lead us. In the words of Fred Hampton, you kill a revolutionary, but you cannot kill the revolution. Folks, that's my blog for June 2020. It's called A Burning House. And that takes me again into my subject for today is, do we really understand the times? Do we really understand the times that we are in? I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people in the last couple of weeks. I've had conversations with young folks, just passerbyers, passing by my house as they work out. I've had conversations with those in my age group, middle age folk. And I've read a lot, been reading a lot, seen a lot of different things on social media, some in which I haven't wanted to see. Some comments, some people I haven't even wanted to acknowledge or engage in the post. Just kind of read it, pass it by. Because really, I think a lot of times, many of the posts have been kind of more of the same, if you will. And this has been weighing real heavy on me. Partially, of course, those of you who have been following me or know me, I'm someone who I love being Black. I love Black people, my core, my DNA, my wife, our family. You know, one of our main objectives is to be examples for our broader community. We take it seriously about educating them about history, about fostering these things. Take it serious about teaching investing, financial literacy, collaborative, building wealth together, collaborative joint ventures, etc., building businesses, enterprise. And quite honestly, it's a struggle because even in doing these things ourselves, we had much to learn. I have made many mistakes. I've had many I don't know if you call it a setback, but setback for lack of a better word. And I keep plugging away because I know that what I have to offer, the examples that I have to show, are better than most have had. But it baffles me because so many of us, I often feel, have not actually, are not actually understanding the weight of the times. This is no longer a thing that we can just talk about police brutality. We can't just talk about Trump. We can't just talk about one aspect of any of these things. As I mentioned before on a previous show, that this unrest, this uprising is not just about George Floyd. It's not just about any one individual. This unrest is the head, if you will, of, or the coming of it to the head, if you will, of 400 years of oppression, of lies being told, of a system called democracy that has never truly existed, of so many things that have been blatant and clear to so many and ignored and dismissed by so many more. But even in this time, even with the weight of this present moment, so many of us still have no answers, no solutions to offer. Earlier in the unrest, there were a lot of people complaining that the buildings were burning and people were looting. And I tried to a few close friends of mine, and I tried to share my thoughts to ease their fear, their frustration. I would like to share a bit of what I have, my position on all of that, and that for real change to come, this shit has to burn. For real change to come, there will be looting. For real change to come, there will be death. If we think that change comes by the way of a ballot box, we are very naive. Not real change. Not the type of overhaul change that is needed in this country and really around the world. This change will require a lot of things that a lot of people are not prepared to witness, experience, or deal with. You don't oppress a people for 400 years and then relinquish all authority without a fight. medical care, when we are brought into the doctor's office or to the hospitals. The same system that fails to educate us properly, that redlines and ghettos and charges us higher money on interest rates. These are the same people that we're looking to vaccinate us out of COVID and to come to our rescue during protests. I don't know which one of us is the bigger fool, but I know that that ain't right. I gotta use grandma language because grandma would tell us we're being foolish if we think that the same folk that are shooting us dead wouldn't poison our foods and our water, then we're foolish. So I say that again because I'm not really sure if we understand the times in which we're in, the serious nature of what's happening right now, and how we need to be preparing ourselves, how we need to be collaborating, how we need to be reading and studying and learning to grow our own foods. I don't believe we are truly understanding the time that we are in. June 19th, 2020, our President Trump will be taking his rally to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma is the birthplace of Black Wall Street, the original. There were others. As far as history can tell me, it was the birthplace of Black Wall Street. It was a place in which, after being emancipated, Black men and women built their own communities, own banks, schools, and built them with Black dollars and support. There were millionaires birthed out of Black Wall Street. And its neighboring white citizens who were jealous of their Black neighbors, what they had achieved by pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, were so enraged and jealous that they went there and they burned it down and murdered hundreds and hundreds of people. Perfect storm. Today, our president is planning his rally for his campaign, his re-election there. And one of the police chief or sheriff has already spoken and said that we are lucky because more Black folk should be shot down by police. So we're going to a place And there are other places like this. There are other places like that. There are other sheriffs and police chiefs like this one. There are other people who think just like Trump. Some of them's names are Biden. And we are not, again, as a people, understanding the times we're in. So I've had these conversations about things that were not necessarily going to move us forward. We're not going to help us to pivot, but still very much juvenile, unsophisticated, lacking true growth potential, opportunity. And it's left me very, very disappointed, frustrated, and perplexed. So if you're listening, if you're hearing me, no matter where you are in the country or in the world, I hope you please take this time, really, really, really breathe it in. Really, really. And reflect. Reflect on what it is, how it is that you want to have been either impactful, how what you want to see come from this, how you want to be a part of making what you see come to fruition. Take a moment to pause because I know that it can be scary. I know it can be overwhelming. If you truly have faith, now's the time to pray and move. Move on your prayers. That's where I'm that's where I'm making my peace. I'm asking for the Creator's guidance, protection, and comfort, and to help me be able to manifest what I believe is the example of what He wants others to follow. And understand that it is time, and it's been time for us to stop playing small. It's been time for us to stop playing games. It's been time for us to stop bickering, watching, being entertained by buffoonery and things that don't actually put life in us but suck life out of us. And we need to move in that direction. So take a moment and reflect. And after your reflection, I would ask that after your reflection that you truly move, that you truly take action. We don't have much time. We don't need one individual leader. We have to see ourselves and know that we ourselves are leaders. I pray for all of us that we will continue to strive and do better, and that this world will be a better place. That we can all say that we had some true measure of involvement in being a part of this change. That is my prayer. That is my wish. I'm your host, Gary Rockman. You've been listening to Connection. That's my show for today. Until next week, folks, keep moving forward.